Well, for the European Union, the Southern Mediterranean is a priority region for many reasons, but it's hard to see a strategic vision that is common and shared by the 28 members so far of the European Union. We've seen a number of initiatives, lots of documents, strategies, etc. But the problem is that the EU has multiple visions and some dilemmas that prevent it as a group from advancing the policies or the stated goals in North Africa and the Middle East. It has to do with the diversity within the European Union, but also with the process of decision making, and basically because foreign and security policies so far have been dependent on consensus or unanimity by all 28 members of the European Union, which means that normally it comes down to the lower common denominator. This could change with the new Commission that will start working on November 1st, 2019, and the idea of having qualified majority as a way to make decisions at the EU level on certain areas that affect foreign and security policies, with a more geopolitical commission and stronger personalities dealing with the foreign action of the EU. Now, the thing is, the paradox that Europe has when dealing with the Southern Mediterranean. On the one hand, Europe is a heavyweight because it has the largest economic relations, the main economic partner of the entire Southern Mediterranean, because of history, of human contacts, of cooperation aid, because of also diplomatic efforts and resources. I mean, think of all the EU delegations in the Southern Mediterranean, think of all the national diplomatic delegations or embassies or diplomats, etc. But the paradox is that despite all that presence and all those links, when it comes to its ability, to EU's ability to shape and to transform its southern neighborhood, it's almost incapable of doing so because of the lack of clear policy-making capacity, lack of implementation capacity. Sometimes there are issues with the legitimacy of the EU, and obviously infighting or even internal competition among the main EU member states. This has generated some sort of, I would call it, chaotic approach or a confused strategic vision, especially after 2011 and the Arab uprisings. That's the immediate neighborhood of the EU. It's just, crossing the Mediterranean. And despite that, we've seen very confusing messages, documents issued by the EU, and an attempt 8 years later to go back to some sort of authoritarian stability approach, or some would call it the old paradigm, the authoritarian stability paradigm, supporting regimes that are using heavy-handed policies or repressive means as a way of maintaining some sort of stability within those countries. And this is something that the EU, being aware of the problems that exist at the social level and the tensions within some societies in the South, is unable to exit that paradox of saying one thing and doing the opposite. The EU is aware that its relevance internationally has declined in a way for different reasons. Some have to do with EU dynamics, and others have to do with the international environment and emerging powers and influence exerted by some foreign powers in Europe's immediate neighborhood. Brexit is not helping, creating stable environment, or even devoting resources to the external action of the EU. The economy also in relative terms is declining, and there's competition or groups that have been formed within the EU, some of them, some member states having Eurosceptic approaches and policies, or even, political parties that are anti-European or against the whole European integration project. But also the role of the US. I think that is, in a way, changing how the EU views its international role. And it has to do mainly with the fact that the US, according to many Europeans, has become less reliable as an ally. Some would even question if the US is still an ally, because some of the of the policies, the statements, of the harsh talk, of the tariffs, and all the trade wars going on. So how reliable is the U.S.? And in the absence of more communication or a partnership or working together with the U.S., so the EU has to change its approach and learn how to do things in a different way. And as some European members of the new European Commission said recently, the EU has to learn how to talk the language of power and to use it when needed.